For 25 years, she never felt sunlight on her skin. She never touched real grass. She never breathed open air. She never knew what the sky even looked like. She was born on 22 July 1994, but she wasn't born free. Her world began not in a forest, not under a canopy of leaves, not surrounded by her own kind, but inside cold metal walls of a New York laboratory. Every day of her life was the same. Steel cages, buzzing machines, harsh lights that never dimmed, and human hands that poked, tested, injected, monitored. She didn't understand why. She didn't understand what she did wrong. She only knew one truth. She existed for someone else's purpose, never her own. Years passed. Seasons changed outside. Snow, rain, summers, but she never saw any of them. The only sky she knew was a white ceiling. The only wind she felt was from air vents in the lab. But even in that silent, colorless prison, she waited. Something in her heart whispered, "This is not the end." Then one day, everything changed. She was moved, loaded into a crate, taken away from the lab that consumed her entire life. She expected another cold place, another experiment, another room with no exit. Instead, she arrived at the wildlife way station. It wasn't freedom, but it was the first time she felt kindness. Real food, gentle voices, soft blankets instead of metal floors. But still no sky, no world, just safety without freedom. She grew older. Her eyes lost some of their innocence, but they never lost their hope. Because deep inside, she believed something better existed. And then, in 2019, the moment came. A team from Save the Chimps arrived. They said her name softly. They promised her something she had never known. Home. She didn't know what that word meant. But she felt something in their voices, something warm, something true. They transported her across the country, all the way to Florida, to a sanctuary built for healing souls like hers. A place with open fields, trees, islands, other chimps, and something she had never seen. The sky. Her crate opened. The world outside glowed with sunlight. Birds sang. Palm trees swayed. And for the first time in 25 years, she was free to take a step outside. The caregivers watched silently, holding their breath. She placed one hand on the ground, hesitated, then slowly stepped forward. Warmth touched her face. And then, she looked up. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. Her body went still. Above her was a universe she never knew existed. Endless blue, clouds drifting like giant feathers, sunlight pouring like gold from the heavens. She wasn't just seeing the sky. She was meeting it. Her lips parted slightly, and for a moment, she looked like a child seeing the world for the first time. Awe, wonder, freedom, life. The video captured just a few seconds. But those seconds shattered millions of hearts across the internet. Because in that moment, you could see 25 years of pain melting away. You could see the weight of her past falling off her shoulders. You could see a soul learning how to breathe again. Her whole life, she lived under fluorescent lights. Now, she stood under the sun. And she wasn't afraid. She was finally home. She took another step. Then another. Every movement slow, unsure, trembling with a lifetime of confusion and curiosity. Her fingers brushed the grass, soft, alive, nothing like the cold steel she grew up on. For the first time, she felt the earth answer her touch. She paused, lifted her hand, and stared at the tiny blade stuck between her fingers, as if she had just discovered a new world. Because she had. Behind her, the caregivers held back tears. They knew that this small moment, this tiny touch, was something she had waited 2.5 decades to feel. And then she did something no one expected. She closed her eyes, lifted her chin, and took the deepest breath of her life. The wind wrapped around her like a long-lost friend. The sun warmed the places on her skin where cold metal used to bite. The sounds of the sanctuary, birds, leaves, distant calls of other chimps. They all flooded into her like a forgotten language she was hearing again. And then she stepped fully out of the crate. No cage, no walls, no ceiling, just sky. She looked up again, longer this time, her eyes glistening in the sunlight. It wasn't fear. It wasn't confusion. It was recognition. As if the sky was something she'd dreamed about her whole life, but never believed was real. As if something inside her whispered, "You're safe now." Slowly, she walked forward, toward the island that would become her home. She didn't run. She didn't panic. She simply moved with the quiet grace of someone reclaiming a life that was stolen from her. Every step she took was a victory. Every breath she drew was a rebirth. Every second she spent under that open sky was a promise. Never again would she live in darkness. Never again would she be treated like an object. Never again would she be denied the right to simply be. Other chimps watched from a distance, curious, cautious, welcoming. They chirped softly, offering greetings only chimps understand. She looked at them, then looked back at the sky, then took her first brave steps toward her new family. For the first time in 25 years, she wasn't alone. The world watched this moment go viral. Millions of people crying, shocked, amazed. Because in her eyes, they saw something pure. The exact second a soul discovers freedom. She didn't roar. She didn't run. She simply looked up, and it was enough to break the internet. She took a few more steps onto the island. But this time, something changed. Her pace slowed. Her breath softened. Her eyes drifted toward a distant sound. A soft, rhythmic hoo-hoo echoing from the trees. It was a call. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just a gentle greeting. The way chimps welcome someone who has suffered too long. She froze. Her body went still, but her eyes began to move. Searching, scanning, trying to understand a world she had been hidden from her entire life. Then, from behind a cluster of palm leaves, a young female chimp appeared. Not rushing. Not intimidating. Just curious. The newcomer tilted her head slightly, studying her. A soft, friendly chirp escaped her lips. A sound chimps used to say, "It's okay. I'm here." She stepped forward, then stopped, giving space. Respect. Patience. For the first time ever, someone was treating her not like a test subject, not like an experiment, but like a living, breathing being who deserved gentleness. She took one trembling step closer. The younger chimp took one too. A tiny gap separated them. A lifetime of fear stood in between. But then, the one who had spent 25 years in confinement did something unbelievably brave. She reached out her hand. Not fully, not confidently, just enough. Her fingers hovered in the air, shaking, uncertain, but reaching, and the young chimp reached back. Their fingertips touched. A soft, fragile, beautiful moment that said more than any words ever could. In the language of chimps, that touch meant, "I see you. I accept you. You're one of us." She blinked rapidly, her breath catching. All her years of isolation, all the experiments, all the metal bars, melted in that single touch. Then the young chimp gently pulled her hand, inviting her forward, guiding her deeper into the sanctuary, into a world where she belonged. She followed, not because she understood, but because, for the first time in her life, someone was leading her somewhere safe. As they walked together, side by side, two silhouettes under a wide open sky, the entire world watching felt something they couldn't explain. Hope. Because freedom is not just stepping outside a cage. It's learning how to live after it. And this was her first lesson. She walked beside the young chimp, each step slow and unsure, as if she was still afraid the ground might disappear under her feet, as if freedom itself might turn out to be another experiment. But the air around her felt different now, warmer, softer, almost welcoming. She reached the first cluster of trees on the island. Tall, living giants, nothing like the artificial branches bolted to lab walls. Their leaves whispered in the wind, swaying gently as though greeting her arrival. She lifted her hand toward a low branch, hesitating for a moment. Then, very slowly, she touched it. The bark felt rough, real, ancient. The branch moved slightly under her fingers, alive in a way nothing in her past had ever been. She gasped. It was the first time she had touched something that grew. The young chimp behind her chirped softly, almost encouraging her to climb. But she wasn't ready yet. Too many memories. Too many years without freedom. So she simply stood there, holding onto that branch, feeling the heartbeat of the world she had been denied. And then, from a distance, another sound came. A deeper one. Stronger. A long, rumbling poho rolling across the sanctuary. She turned instantly. Her instincts sharp, her body alert. Because she knew this sound, even if she hadn't heard it in decades. It was the call of an alpha male. Across the water channel that surrounded the island, a large adult chimp watched her with calm, steady eyes. He didn't approach, didn't threaten, didn't roar or beat his chest. He simply watched. with a stillness that carried both dominance and compassion. She froze again, not in fear, but in something deeper. Recognition. For years, she had seen faces behind glass, hands in rubber gloves, voices echoing through cold metal rooms. But this was different. This was one of her own. She lowered her gaze, not in submission, but in respect. A gesture that said, "I'm new. I'm uncertain, but I mean no harm." The alpha nodded once. A tiny movement. Quiet. Powerful. Accepting. And just like that, she wasn't an outsider anymore. She turned back toward the young female who had greeted her, who chirped again and tapped the ground twice. An invitation to explore further. So she moved forward, past the trees, past the rocks, past the shadows that reminded her of labs and cages, into a sunlit clearing filled with soft grass and scattered fruit. The young chimp picked up a slice of watermelon and held it out. A gift. She stared at it, confused. Not because she didn't recognize food, but because no one had ever given her something. In her old life, food arrived through metal trays. Cold. Measured. Transactional. But this was kindness. She took the fruit gently, holding it with both hands. She sniffed it. Sweet. Fresh. Unlike anything she had been fed in captivity. She took her first bite. Her eyes widened. She froze again. The taste was overwhelming. So natural, so vibrant, so alive. She devoured the rest in seconds. Juice dripping down her chin, as if she were rediscovering what real food tasted like. The young chimp chirped happily beside her. Another invitation. Another step toward trust. And for the first time, she let herself smile. A small, fragile expression that carried the weight of 25 stolen years. Then she heard more footsteps. 3 more chimps approached slowly from the tree line. A small welcoming group, chosen carefully by caregivers to match her temperament. They circled her gently, giving space. Sniffing, observing, emitting soft greeting grunts. This was her introduction. Her initiation. Her first moment as part of a family. She lowered herself onto the grass. Not because she was tired, but because she felt safe. The young female sat beside her. The others sat nearby. The alpha watched from a distance, guard-like, calm, protective. For the first time in her entire life, she wasn't alone. For the first time, she wasn't property. For the first time, she wasn't a project, a number, a test subject. She was a chimpanzee. A real one. A free one. She lay on her back, staring up at the sky that had once been just a fantasy. Birds flew in circles above her, their wings painting lines across the blue expanse she never got to see growing up. A breeze brushed over her body. Grass cushioned her spine. Sunlight warmed her face. She closed her eyes. Not in fear, but in peace. This was the moment she found herself. The moment she reclaimed everything that was taken. The moment the world witnessed a soul awakening. And when she opened her eyes again, she didn't look scared, or confused, or lost. She looked alive. Her journey wasn't over. Her healing wasn't instant. Her past wasn't erased. But for the first time ever, she had a future. And it began the moment she touched the sky. She slept through the twilight, her breath slow and steady. A rhythm she hadn't felt in decades. Not shallow with fear. Not tense from confinement. Just peaceful. When the night fully settled over the sanctuary, the island transformed. Crickets sang in the grass. The wind hummed its gentle lullaby. The stars, millions of them, glimmered above her like a sky filled with tiny lanterns. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked up. In the dark stillness, her expression shifted. Not in fear, not in confusion, but in wonder. For 25 years, her nights were silent, stale, shadowed by fluorescent lights that never turned off. She had never seen a real night sky, never seen stars, never felt darkness that was alive, warm, safe. Now, she was staring at a universe she never knew belonged to her. The young female chimp beside her woke as well, yawning softly. She noticed her gaze, followed it upward, then gently leaned her head on the newcomer's shoulder. A gesture only given to those who are trusted. For a moment, the two of them sat in complete stillness, shoulder to shoulder, soul to soul. She closed her eyes again, but just lightly. Not to sleep, but to feel. To feel the breeze brushing her skin. To feel the warmth of companionship. To feel the gentle heartbeat of another living being beside her. She wasn't just existing anymore. She was connecting. As the night deepened, the caregivers watched from afar. No cages. No commands. No control. Just a silent promise. She would never be harmed again. In the distance, the alpha male made a soft, deep hoot, a nighttime reassurance to his group. She responded instinctively with a gentle grunt. Not loud, not strong, but enough to say, "I'm here. I belong. I'm part of this." And he answered with a calm huff, acknowledging her place in the troop. This was family now. As dawn approached, a faint light seeped over the horizon. Birds began to call softly across the sanctuary. The sky shifted from black to blue to soft orange. She lifted her head and watched the sunrise. Her first sunrise in freedom. She blinked, mesmerized. The colors reflected in her eyes, glowing with the warmth of someone seeing hope in real time. The young female chirped excitedly, nudging her, inviting her to watch the world awaken. She rose slowly, stretching her arms, feeling the fresh morning air fill her chest. This was a new day, a new beginning, a new chapter in a life that had been paused for too long. She walked toward the center of the island, her steps more confident now, not hesitant, not trembling, but steady. Her new family followed, not pushing, not pulling, just walking with her. Together, at the water's edge, she looked at her reflection for the first time in years. Not through dirty glass, not through lab windows, but through clean, sunlit water. She leaned closer, untouched by fear, and saw herself, not a number, not a project, not an experiment, a chimpanzee, a survivor, a soul with a future. And in that moment, something changed forever inside her. She dipped her fingers into the water, feeling its coolness ripple outward. The surface shimmered. Her reflection blurred, then returned sharper, stronger. Behind her, the troop gathered. The alpha approached a little closer than before, watching her with a recognition that only comes when someone has earned their place. She turned to face them all, the young, the old, the curious, the patient. And for the first time, she walked toward them with purpose. No hesitation, no fear, no fragments of a broken past holding her back. She joined them fully. The group welcomed her, grooming her gently, wrapping her into their circle, weaving her presence into their morning routine. This was acceptance. This was healing. This was home. As the sun rose higher, golden light spilled across the sanctuary. She climbed her first tall tree. She sat on a branch overlooking the water. She let the wind move through her fur, and she watched the world with eyes that finally understood what freedom meant. The moment she had stepped outside and looked at the sky for the very first time had gone viral. Millions watched. Millions cried. Millions felt something awaken inside their hearts. But the real miracle wasn't the moment she looked up. It was everything that came after. It was her journey from fear to courage, from silence to connection, from isolation to love, from captivity to life. By the time the sun fully lit the sanctuary, she was no longer a chimp who had spent 25 years indoors. She was a chimp who finally stepped into the world she was born to know. A world where the sky is open, the grass is soft, the air is warm, and freedom isn't a dream. It's her reality. And as she climbed higher into the branches, watching the horizon unfold in every direction, her story whispered one truth. No matter how long the darkness lasts, the moment you step into the light, your life truly begins. And hers had just begun.